health industry and the insurance industry loves about Obamacare. Huge taxpayer subsidies. He made de facto concessions on trade. He wants fairer trade, but in fact, he's going to continue to sign and implement this stuff. And the most important thing, and this is, I think, going to be the big challenge for the left in the U.S., is that he made a major concession on immigration. The phrase, what was it? Oh, shit, I'm getting old. Qualification-based, merit-based immigration is straight out of the bill that has been languishing in Congress since 2007. The bill that was formulated by John McCain of Arizona and Chuck Schumer of New York, that is supported by the Business Roundtable, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and unfortunately the AFL-CIO and Change to Win, which is basically your merit is, will you come here and work in non-union construction? Will you come here and pick fruit, etc., for 2 to 3 years, and then we send you back? And the thing is, now we're going to be in a situation where not only the mainstream of the Democratic Party is going to go for this, but so far I haven't heard a lot from the burning wing on a clear stance against this sort of pro-corporate immigration policy, which is being supported by the labor officials. So I see that he's going to continue to try to feed red meat to his base, to the sort of middle class and some minority of white workers who buy into this racist, protectionist, economic nationalist policies. But I think that speech actually marked a major retreat on his part from the things that pissed off the Republican establishment.
Yeah. And I think that gets to the strengths and weakness of let's say, even Bernie Sanders himself, which is that I think during his campaign, Bernie Sanders was constructing an alternative politics, right? He was constructing a vision of what people should demand and expect from government, and a way to get it that was through kind of confrontation with elites and class conflict. But when he's in, the Senate, he has to construct, and is constructing, policy. So he becomes better than most of the people in there, but still, it's not kind of the same as the as far as the sustenance that he give to, for lack of a better word, extra parliamentary movements and social struggles and whatnot. And that's as critical as I'll get where the sentence. It's trying times, and we need to keep the faith. But I guess, Connor, I want to talk about your piece on Steve Bannon. All joking aside, was one of the best things I've read, just at a prose level. And I guess that's the old mixed media stuff, not the Jacobin influence. But I guess, can you talk more about the kind of rhetorical power of this populist right? And obviously, liberalism is insufficient to defeat it. But do you see kind of Bannon as an individual that's able to tap into this and kind of make it broader and bigger? Like, are you worried about Bannonism becoming more mainstream, or do you see it as kind of right now at not quite its peak, but getting more press than it should?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of smart people seem to think that Steve Bannon is some really interesting evil genius. I don't know. It seems like what Charlotte just said. I mean, we've seen how quickly Trump is folding into the mainstream of the Republican Party. So, I mean, I look at someone like the Bannon rhetoric with Trump, and then I compare it to a speech I just listened to from Marine Le Pen, lambasting Merkel to her face. And I don't know. Like, I think that Trump's victory is a lot more about the total failure of American liberalism versus someone like Le Pen is about her actual strength as a politician. I think that Bannon's evil genius and cunning is very overrated. I mean, he's smart in some ways. Like, I just saw some headline about how he's really apprehensive about going after Medicaid, which I'm not sure how the politics of that. But he was smart enough to know that would be something important to the the small number of the coalition who are white workers who Medicaid is something that's probably important to them. So it was interesting that he's kind of one of the few forces in the Trump administration saying, I don't know about this. But No, I think far too much is made. Mark Blank, an economist I always enjoy reading, he seemed to think that Bannon was just this really fascinating person you really like to have a beer with and everything. And I don't know, he just seems like he's resurrecting like McKinley era rhetoric in some ways, and that's interesting, I guess. But no, I don't. I think his super genius evil is overstated. I think that we should focus on liberalism to some degree and just how worthless it is, and that should be more of our fight, I think.
I love the way Connor described Bannon in his piece, which is kind of like, like an old washed up guy, like watching like History Channel, like Rommel documentaries. And I actually used to as a little kid, I used to be really into that stage of the History Channel when they were just like constantly Rommel, and clearly pro Rommel. I would never, History Channel execs were never pro Hitler by any means. I wouldn't say that, but they were pro Rommel. It was very odd because as a young kid, with like Indo-Trinidadian parents, I was just told the British were the root of all evil. And then I would watch the documentary and be like, okay, so the good guy's Rommel. He has all these amazing Italian friends not doing shit. And then, the British are the bad guys. But
did you see the episode of The Sopranos where Tony got the jacket? And Tony's giving this brown leather jacket, and his captains go, "You look like Rommel." And then I was like, he was just beating with pride.
So it's really hard to segue that respect anything else on this page. So, I guess just closing thoughts. Let me end with something kind of a bit soft. What should we be optimistic about? Because I, for one, despite my usual kind of demeanor, jaded cynicism, I've been pretty pleased, despite some reservations, pleased with the first few months of the Trump administration, as far as the resistance to the Trump administration. In that I kind of was afraid that the immediate takeaway from liberals would be, and from a lot of people would be, we should have elected Joe Biden, or we should have done this, or we should have done this. But it seems like there has been a large chunk of people who are looking for something different, and are looking for new forms of politics. And obviously, it's kind of up to us to provide it. Maybe we're not, but at least there's some optimism there. Would you, Charlie?
You're sure over there.
Sure. You need time to think? Anyone ready off the bat? So we talked about The Sopranos.
I don't understand what the question is, though.
What are you optimistic about?
I can say something really quickly.
Okay.
I can. Oh, okay. So I guess there are a couple of things I find optimistic with a lot of mixed in with my long moments of despair. So first of all, it's the town halls that make me excited. So seeing people turning up and screaming at their elected officials, more of that, right? Make them scared to death of us, because actually, even though they treat us like we're idiots, and maybe some of us are, right? They should be frightened of being elected. And I'm not saying anything about how we should support Democrats or whatever. I'm not going to take that stance. But seeing the Utah situation, seeing Republicans getting yelled at by people who don't want to lose their health insurance, that's right here. Okay, so that's good, because that goes against the whole idea that we're Americans are less engaged, not participating as in the past, right? And we're seeing sort of a return to more civicness. And, I want that civicness to be as socialist as possible, but, baby steps, right? Another thing that I find, I guess, encouraging is that I'm, finding, secret socialists everywhere. In my social networks. Some dad from who's, friends with, who's, kid is friends with my kid. He's like, oh, yeah, I've always been a socialist. I'm like, really? So people, I feel like we're now sort of, willing to come out to the light and be open about it. And I think that's great. So I'm a new member of the brand new Queens DSA. We had 200 people at our meeting, and that's amazing. And not all of our members. So, and it doesn't have to be the DSA. It can be other organizations as well. But people are coming out. They're joining. They're trying to figure out ways to resist, and they're not just doing it under the broad umbrella of liberalism. So I'm thrilled.
Yeah, I actually was chatting with Connor before this event started, and I think we may differ on whether there, I see something to be optimistic about is now people recognize there's a left of liberalism, and I think that's as much, we have Bernie to thank for that in some sense, Certainly, people saying I'm a socialist, I've always been a socialist. Being able to say that now, I think even those of us who were quite critical of Bernie throughout the campaign, have to really thank the Bernie campaign for that. As far as other things to be, under that broad umbrella of the left of liberalism, I think it's hard not to see the Women's March that happened. Millions of people come out. That's very exciting. But for me, what's been more exciting as someone who is already a socialist and a feminist who has looked at the feminism as a movement being on the retreat and on the defensive for my entire life, pretty much, it feels like. Seeing socialists contest what feminism means today, and Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor, I think, is one of the best U.S. feminists on the left who's really contesting this in mainstream publications and mainstream movements, sort of saying the upcoming women's strike is a strike of working class women by working class women. And so I think contestation over what feminism is and bringing, sort of saying, no, lean-in feminism failed us, Hillary Clinton failed us, it offered nothing to most women or most, anyone, and it bred Trump. I think that's, things are bad, and when things get really bad, more space opens up for those of us on the left who've been consistently saying the same thing and been proven right again and again. And then I would just say really briefly, I've been organizing a grad student union at my campus, and we are hoping to file for an election soon. And while I don't think grad students, a lot of grad students in the audience, I don't think grad students matter all that much for the revitalization of the labor movement. I think,
nor do college professors.
Yes. I agree with you. I believe about, strategically, we need to talk about transportation and infrastructure and logistics when we talk about revitalizing the labor movement. That said, on some level, when people have come to me as their sort of friendly leftists that they know in Boston and said, what can I do in the wake of Trump winning the election? And I say, build a union in your workplace. At first they're sad because that's not as fun as a rally. But I've had people consistently following up and being linked up to unions, which, often failed them for many reasons. That would be a whole nother topic as far as the labor movement. But there is a real willingness to try things beyond the normal toolkit of liberalism. Some of which are building unions, some of which are talking about class again in publications other than Jacobin. And so I think
you could name it. It's not like a TV commercial. The other brand.
Well, one thing I'm thinking specifically is Sadie Doyle wrote a piece that was not great, and I think it was Elle. Saying striking is a privilege, and instead of, which was, it was wild to see. She talked about Rosa Luxemburg in the pages of Elle, which was bizarre and jarring. But then instead of that going as the end of, okay, that's feminism. You're right. We shouldn't strike because that's a privilege. That was actually combated, and people wrote a piece, I can't remember, it was 2 women wrote a response in The Nation that said, not striking actually has always been a privilege, and working class women have always organized strikes and have been at the forefront of labor as long as the labor movement has existed. And seeing those debates play out is exciting and good. So that's my hopeful take.
First of all, I just want to say we talked a lot about Joe Biden for some reason. I think we should all be clear that Joe Biden is in some ways worse than Hillary Clinton. He's just a much better politician. So I think actually Joe Biden probably would have won, but I think he's worse than Hillary Clinton. So optimism. I'll start with some. I'm a bit more pessimistic than I think other people in this panel. I'm very optimistic. I'm Bernie Bro #1. I was very excited about all that, and I think it's really amazing that now it's like just actually getting mainstream Americans to realize there's something left of liberalism. That's no small victory. That's great. It's fantastic. Where I am a little bit pessimistic is, I think it's really cool that now we see things like, hey, socialists are in America. Did you know there's socialists here? And it's really exciting, but I think we have to be kind of critical about who we are. A lot of people identifying as such and joining these organizations, they're, it's kind of a middle class, professional class, affair. They're joining, as Bhaskar said, they're joining in ones and twos. They're not joining in large groups. These are, so that's a major hurdle, and that's so the socialist movement is a movement in this country without a social base. So that, I think we always should remember that, and it's very exciting what's happening. It really is, but we really can't forget that. The working class has the ability to shut this country down. The middle class and the professional class, not so much. So I just think we should always be aware of that.
I actually agree with almost everything that the three previous panelists said in terms of what to be optimistic about, and I share Connor's concern about the fact that the resurgence of socialism, and I'll talk about that in a second, has yet to actually appear among working class people who have some capacity for organization and some capacity to actually fuck things up. But let me just say about the two things that make me most excited. One is, to be honest, the women's strike is very exciting, but even more than, not more than the women's strike, but more than the women's march, more than a lot of the sort of conventional protests. What excited me was what happened at the airports in the immediate response to Trump's order, where people not only showed up and protested, but actually screwed things up. Went into the streets, stopped traffic, tried to get into the terminals, and tried to actually, as Fran Piven put it, throw sand in the gears of everything. The fact that there is now a layer of people who are willing to talk about breaking the rules of civilized protest, of going back to the disruptive stuff that the CIO and the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement all did, and to be effective, is very encouraging. What is also encouraging, with Connor's caveat, is the emergence of a socialist left in the United States with some visibility. And I'm hoping that this new rebirth in this period is going to be able to, that this new left is going to be able to, across organizations, carry out united activity, initiating and building resistance, and has the capacity for the really hard political and strategic discussions that we need to have about where we should be focusing our energies, and about things like how do we relate to the Democratic Party and to maybe a revived pseudo-left liberalism within that party. How do we relate to the existing leadership of the trade union movement? How do we relate to the fact that most of the social movements that helped shape me in the 60s and 70s are now dominated by professional non-government organizations? How do we do this? And then the ability of this new socialist movement to engage these discussions within and across organizations in a comradely but clear and political way is going to be crucial for us to move from these opportunities to actually building a movement that's going to have some impact.
Okay. Bernie would have won. We'll just leave it there.
Sure.